You do not lose your power when someone criticizes you. You lose your power when you allow their criticism to control your emotions. You do not become weak because the world is chaotic. You become weak when every noise outside of you can pull your mind away from its center. Every time you become angry because of a careless word, anxious because of a certain look, or desperate to explain yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand you, you quietly place the key to your life in another person's hands. You may believe that you are defending your dignity, but in truth, you are reacting according to the commands of the situation. A powerful person is not someone who can force the world to become silent. A powerful person is someone who can preserve silence within while the world is trying to disturb them. This is where the art of indifference begins. Indifference does not mean that you are cold, careless, or without emotion. True indifference means knowing what deserves your energy and what does not. Your mental energy is limited. Every thought you repeat, every argument you enter, and every insult you carry inside your mind consumes a part of the strength that could have been used to build your future. A disciplined mind is like a protected fortress, not because it hates the outside world, but because it understands that inner peace is a valuable possession. Look back at the things that once kept you awake at night. How many of them still matter today? How many opinions that once wounded you have now become nothing more than fading memories? You have often paid a very high price for things that had very little value. This is why, whenever something disturbs you, you must ask yourself one simple question. Will this still matter 5 years from now? If the answer is no, then do not give it more than 5 minutes of your mind. This question does not erase your emotions. It simply places them in the correct proportion. It reminds you that not every battle deserves your presence. Not every word deserves your reply. And not every misunderstanding deserves your explanation. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to react. Sometimes silence is not weakness. It is evidence that another person no longer has the power to control what happens inside you. The world will continue to test you. It will send people who disrespect you, situations that feel unfair, and failures that arrive without warning. You cannot control everything that appears at your door, but you can control what you allow to enter your mind. This is the difference between emotional slavery and inner freedom. An emotional slave lives according to the behavior of other people. Praise makes them feel valuable. Criticism makes them collapse. Attention gives them confidence, and rejection causes them to question their worth. A free person does not place their identity on the scale of the crowd. They listen, but they are not consumed. They observe, but they do not absorb everything. They feel, but they do not allow every emotion to take control of the direction of their life. To reclaim your power, you must create space between what happens and how you respond. Inside that space, you have a choice. You can breathe, observe, evaluate, and then decide whether the situation deserves your energy. Every time you do this, your power returns. Not the power to control another person, but the power to prevent another person from controlling you. When you understand this, indifference no longer appears as a cold wall between you and the world. It becomes an intelligent filter. It keeps what is useful and allows everything else to pass from this moment forward. Stop trying to silence the entire world. Learn to keep your own mind silent while the world remains loud. That is where real power begins. And that is the first step toward becoming someone who cannot be easily disturbed. The moment you stop allowing the world to control your inner state, a deeper question appears. What should you do with pain when it still arrives? Indifference protects your energy, but emotional detachment teaches you how to transform what hurts you. They believe strength means feeling nothing, hiding every wound, and pretending that failure has no effect. But suppression is not mastery. A buried emotion does not disappear. It waits. Real detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel without becoming trapped inside what you feel. When failure comes, most people turn an event into an identity. They do not say, I failed at something. They say, I am a failure. In that moment, one mistake becomes a prison. One loss becomes proof that the future is closed. This is how pain grows beyond its true size. The event may last 1 hour, but the story created around it can last for years. A disciplined mind refuses to confuse an experience with the self. It looks at failure and asks, what happened? What did this reveal? What must change? These questions remove the poison of personal drama and uncover the value hidden inside the experience. Failure then becomes information. It shows you where preparation was weak, where judgment was careless, where patience was missing, and where pride prevented you from seeing clearly. Data does not insult you. Data does not hate you. Data simply tells you what is. When you learn to see failure as data, you stop arguing with reality and begin learning from it. Imagine an archer who misses the target. A foolish archer curses the wind, blames the bow, and questions personal worth. A wise archer studies the distance, adjusts the stance, corrects the breath, and releases the next arrow with greater awareness. The missed shot is not a humiliation, it is instruction. Life works in the same way. Every disappointment contains a signal, but you can only read it when emotion no longer clouds your vision. This does not mean you must deny sadness. Grieve what was lost. Admit what hurts. Sit quietly with disappointment. But do not build a home there. Emotions are visitors, not rulers. Let them enter. Listen to what they reveal, then allow them to leave. The problem begins when you hand them authority. Anger may tell you that a boundary was crossed, but anger should not decide your next move. Fear may warn you of danger, but fear should not design your future. Sadness may show you what mattered, but sadness should not define what remains possible. You are the observer behind the emotion. You are the one who notices the storm. And because you can notice it, you are not the storm itself. Your inner world must not become public property. Other people may disappoint you, reject you, misunderstand you, or walk away, but they do not have the right to decide who you become afterward. That decision remains yours. Each time you separate the event from your identity, you recover your freedom. Each time you study pain instead of worshiping it, you become wiser. Each time you ask what can be learned instead of why this happened to you, you move from helplessness to responsibility. Responsibility is not self-punishment. It is the recognition that even when you did not choose the event, you can still choose the meaning, the response, and the next step. This is how resilient people are formed. They are not protected from failure. They simply refuse to waste failure. They turn rejection into refinement, delay into preparation, loss into clarity, and pressure into discipline. What breaks one person becomes training for another. Not because the second person feels less, but because the second person interprets more wisely. So when the next failure arrives, do not rush to defend yourself, blame yourself, or declare the journey over. Become still. Separate the facts from the emotion. Write down what happened without exaggeration. Identify what was within your control. Identify what must be improved. Then act on the lesson before the pain becomes wasted suffering. The purpose is not to become untouched by life. The purpose is to become teachable in every condition. Once failure is no longer allowed to define you, the approval of others begins to lose its grip as well. Because a person who can learn from defeat no longer needs the crowd to confirm personal worth. Once failure no longer defines you, the approval of others begins to lose its power. Because the need for validation survives only where self-trust is weak. Most people do not realize how much of their life is shaped by the silent desire to be accepted. They choose words that will not offend, dreams that will not be mocked, and paths that will not make others uncomfortable. They call this being reasonable. But often it is fear wearing the mask of wisdom. From an early age, many people learn to connect approval with safety. Praise means belonging. Criticism means danger. And rejection feels like proof that something is wrong with them. Over time, this conditioning becomes a prison. They begin to measure their worth through attention, compliments, applause, and agreement. When the crowd approves, they feel strong. When the crowd turns away, they collapse. This is not confidence. This is dependence. A person who needs constant approval is not living from an inner center. That person is negotiating identity with every room entered. Real confidence begins when you stop asking the world for permission to become who you are. It does not mean ignoring all advice or believing you are always right. It means your direction is guided by principle rather than popularity. It means you can listen without surrendering judgment. It means you can be misunderstood without abandoning yourself. The truth is that people often judge what they do not understand. They may question your discipline because it exposes their inconsistency. They may criticize your silence because they cannot read your intentions. They may mock your goals because your courage reminds them of what they have postponed. Their reaction is not always a reflection of your path. Sometimes it is a reflection of their own discomfort. If you build your identity on their opinion, you will become a different person in every conversation. You will shrink around the insecure, perform around the powerful, and betray your values around those whose approval you desire. The cost is greater than rejection. The cost is losing contact with your own voice. To escape this trap, you must become willing to disappoint people, not through cruelty, arrogance, or rebellion, but through loyalty to what is true. Every meaningful life requires decisions that some people will not understand. Growth changes your standards, your habits, your relationships, and your tolerance for distraction. Those who benefited from your weakness may resist your strength. Those who were comfortable with your silence may dislike your boundaries. You must not confuse their discomfort with your wrongdoing. Ask yourself whose life you are building. Ask who will carry the consequences of your choices. The crowd may advise you today, then disappear when the price must be paid. You will remain. This is why self-respect must become stronger than the desire to be liked. Begin by making small decisions without announcing them. Keep promises that no one else can see. Complete the work when there is no applause. Let your confidence be built through evidence. Each time you act according to your values, you teach your mind that your word can be trusted. Self-trust is not created through positive statements alone. It is created when behavior repeatedly proves that you will not abandon yourself under pressure. Stop explaining every choice. Explanation becomes dangerous when it is used to beg for permission. Some people will not understand you because they are not meant to walk your path. Let them misunderstand. Their confusion does not reduce the truth of your direction. You do not need universal approval. You need alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. When these three become one, the noise outside loses its authority. You no longer perform for attention. You no longer chase people who remain uncertain about your value. You no longer reduce your standards to avoid being alone. Solitude becomes lighter than self-betrayal. Rejection becomes less painful than living a life that does not belong to you. The moment you stop seeking validation, your energy returns. You can use it to learn, build, practice, and move forward. You become free to fail without shame, succeed without apology, and grow without asking whether everyone is comfortable with your transformation. Yet freedom from approval does not mean freedom from criticism. In fact, the more clearly you stand, the more clearly others can aim at you. This is why the next discipline is essential. You must learn how to face criticism without allowing every voice to enter your inner world. The moment you stop begging for approval, criticism becomes more visible, because a person who stands clearly gives the world something clear to attack. This is where many people lose the freedom they have just begun to build. They escape the need for applause, then become trapped by the fear of judgment. They say they do not care what others think. Yet one careless sentence can disturb their focus for an entire day. To become truly steady, you need more than confidence. You need a shield made of discernment. Not every opinion deserves entry into your mind. Not every voice has earned the right to influence your direction. Criticism is not dangerous because it exists. It becomes dangerous when you accept it without examination. A disciplined person does not absorb every word. A disciplined person filters. Imagine a sculptor working on a piece of stone. People pass by and laugh at the unfinished form. Some say the work is useless. Some say the vision is impossible. Others offer advice without understanding the design. The sculptor does not attack them and does not surrender to them. The sculptor studies the stone, studies the intention, and continues to remove what does not belong. This is how you must respond to criticism. Do not react first. Evaluate first. Ask whether the person speaking has experience, wisdom, and a sincere desire to help. Ask whether the criticism points to something specific that can be improved. Ask whether accepting it would move you closer to your principles and your purpose. If the